You are listening to an exclusive on PodHub Network. Your city, your podcast.
All right, hello and welcome to another episode of Back to the Burgh. I guess you could say this is a small business spotlight episode. There's only one guy that's from Western PA here. So this is a small business spotlight episode that we've been doing. The podcast is brought to you by the PodHub Network, by the way. So I'll introduce everybody since two faces you probably recognize. So I'll introduce the one that you don't know first. With me is Vince Duffy. He's the founder of MetaNu in the greater Pittsburgh area. It's a company that I guess you guys work with sports psychology. If you want to elaborate, you can.
Yeah, absolutely. We performance psychology, whether you're an athlete, business, professional, student, we're all just about bringing mental wellness and well-being to the human and just helping them make an impact and grow in life.
Yep, awesome. Can't wait to talk about that more later. And then at the bottom here, we got two, in my opinion, two pirate greats at least from my childhood. We have Alex Presley and Michael Mckenry. Guys, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us. Thanks for making us feel old. Appreciate it.
Yeah, hey, I'm not that
childhood. Man.
You got a better beard than I got.
Hey, Press, you still look good. You're still young. Age is just a number, right?
Exactly. Age is just a number. So now let's get into it. Like I was telling you guys, the show, we usually start out with early life, stuff that you grew up with. So what was something you guys, like, outside of baseball, you love to do? Like, if you could make that a career path instead of baseball, what would it have been?
Lead it off, Vinny. Come on.
That's tough. Hobby-wise, I love to cook. So I'm a big Italian, so a lot of food growing up. Been in the kitchen since I was 10. So
spaghetti and meatballs, right, Vinny?
Probably getting a restaurant together. I love business, but probably a cook or restaurateur, something in that direction.
Nice. What about you, Alex?
I liked art when I was a kid. I don't think I would have been an artist, but probably not the most lucrative profession for me. But it was fun. I like video games, but I mean, who didn't when they were a kid? So love to draw and stuff like that. And actually, haven't done it in probably 20 years, so I can't imagine what that would look like at this point.
Because I have friends that they're kind of trying to make careers out of being artists now. And it's cool to see their grind from like a ground level. They're all constantly trying to get projects out, and it's really fascinating to watch. And I try to help them out as much as I can.
Yeah, it's got to be a tough profession. It's impressive what those guys do for sure.
Alex would probably be the art dealer or art broker.
Yeah, I'd be a broker of some sort. I can wheel and deal for you.
You have an eye for art?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we'll see.
Mike, what about you, man?
Just the childhood you're talking about?
Yeah.
My first love was basketball.
Oh, nice.
And then I realized I was going to be vertically challenged, and baseball took its own role. But I was such a strong-willed kid. I just wanted to go and go and go. So it was hard to get me to settle down and do anything. I probably wouldn't even colored in the lines, Alex. I was coloring. I was running out the door to, play the next game or whatever. So yeah, I'd say basketball is my thing. And, I played it in high school, and I'm 5'9", and I'm not Muggsy Bones. So I decided, baseball is my thing, and I think I made a good decision.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, there's a lot of people with that same challenge. I was actually talking to a guy, Donovan Jeter. He's a defensive tackle for Michigan Wolverines, and he was an amazing basketball player for Beaver Falls in Pennsylvania. Yep. And I asked him, I was like, would you have played two sports in college if you're given the choice? And it was like, he's a big guy, 6'1" probably. He was like, listen, I was a big guy, and like, I can't play a big man in college basketball. You can't be 6'1" and do that.
That was the problem with me, is like, as I went up, I got older and older. I went from being the big kid at 5'9" and like early middle school, and I wanted to stay there because it's so much fun pushing those guys around in the box, getting rebounds. But then they were like 6'5" 2 years later, and then all of a sudden they were 6'7", and I was the point guard, and I was like, I think I probably need to Get out of here.
Mike was a massive kid at the Little League World Series where everybody's like, dang, look how big that kid's bigger than I am.
Yeah. Hey, let's not talk about that. It's really sensitive. They told me I was 6'3". I'm still mad about it.
Now, speaking of baseball, let's talk about when all of you found your love for baseball, whether it was early on or later on. Let's start with Alex this time.
I don't really know. I feel like I've always loved baseball. I don't remember a specific moment or anything like that. I just remember, always getting out in the yard and throwing the ball around and just something that I just kind of took to. I loved all sports really, so I was always playing something. I didn't have to play it, recreationally. I could be out by myself, just a weird kid by himself shooting baskets or something. But it just feels like it's something I've always done. Like I honestly don't remember not having it, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
But I always loved watching on TV, watch major league games and stuff like that. So it was just always there. So it seemed.
Yeah. What about you, Mike? Is that kind of the same sentiment? It's always been there?
I popped out of the womb, and liked baseball.
You're just holding a bat and a ball?
Yeah, I actually came in full uniform. I popped out and it was a feet first slide and safe. It was pretty good, and I came out early because I wanted to get my early work in. Yeah, I mean, I would say it's very similar to Press. If he was weird, I was weird too because I was playing sport. I broke a bunch of windows, throwing the tennis ball against the house. I hit the neighbor's house with golf balls, whatever. I mean, I was just, like I said, I was always going, broke a lot of fences. Me and Alex talked about that because I used to hit pears and walnuts because it was in the backyard and I wanted to hit and nobody was around. And I usually was pretty annoying about it because I wanted to do it so bad. And I'd go shoot baskets like Press, but I tried to pretend like I was Michael Jordan. I'd usually try to find a highlight tape at Goodwill and I'd get it and I'd put it in the VCR. I had to say that because you made us feel old anyway. So I used a VCR and I'd go out there and have the Thought of the Bulls theme song and everything. I mean, sports was life for a long time. I guess it kind of still is.
Yeah, absolutely. And Vince, what about you? I feel like we could have similar ideas of when we fell in love with baseball because growing up, PNC Park was just built. Just going there all the time. Maybe is that true?
Yeah, for sure. I think my dad was a high school football coach, so like Mike and Alex said, played all three sports, being around the game, coach's son, water boy, running around just to go get the balls and whatnot. But I have this one moment where I think I was 3 years old. For Valentine's Day, my parents got me my first baseball mitt, and it was a plastic mitt. But I remember taking it to a game, Pirate game, wearing my Pirate jersey, and that's where I really feel like I got in love with the game and was just obsessed with it. And that's how all sports were my whole life, and still now I'm just obsessed with it. So it's always been there. But PNC Park, I mean, we grew up with it, and just to see the stadium, the atmosphere at that young age, I mean, it's like a masterpiece, right? It's a Picasso.
Yeah, exactly. Like we were talking about before we started, we grew up watching Brian Giles, Jason Kendall. Those were our idols when we were real little kids. And it was cool to be able to just go to the stadium, and it was fairly cheap to go. And they may not have been that good at the time, but that's how we fell in love with baseball. And I feel like if you're not from Pittsburgh, you just don't get it.
Yeah, then if you remember in right field, they used to have, I think they still do now, but that little kids field to run around bases and whatnot. And
yeah.
Well, when we were little, we used to go watch for a few innings, and it was like, I got to go play. So whether we were playing handball or rundown or something, it was just obsessive, and it was just a great time.
Yeah, no, I remember hitting a few wiffle balls over the fence there.
In the river.
My dad wasn't happy about that. He just spent $10 on that, and so out in the river already.
Yeah, exactly.
So now, when did you guys start to think, hey, baseball could be my future? Whoever wants to start with that one.
I'll start.
I'll go.
You go,
I'll go.
go, Mike.
Yeah.
Mix it up.
So, realistically, in my heart, I was probably 5 or 6. I got my first glove, and I didn't know it at the time, but my step grandfather gave me that glove, and he said, one day you're going to have that in the big leagues. Looking back, thinking about having that glove in the big leagues is terrifying. But that's another story. I still have the glove, and it was that moment where I was like, yep, I'm going to do it. And, we do like sports psychology and mental health and wellness, and we really focus on the human being. And, there's such a strong correlation to, believing something and having, like, especially as a little boy, a grown man tell you you're going to do something. He didn't say, I hope. He didn't say, I pray. He said, you're going to. And this is the time where, like, I didn't even really care if I had a glove. Just throw things at me. I'd let it hit me if I had to. Like, I just wanted to play.
That's why you're a catcher, right? You just jump in front of the ball.
Yeah, I had to beg for a while to play catcher. Like Press said, they called me man child. So, like, I threw really hard, and they didn't want that guy behind the plate. They wanted him on the mound and everywhere else. So, but yeah, that's when I, like, genuinely, like, had the thought. And then honestly, like I told you, like, probably to a default, I was very strong-willed. It's my greatest attribute, and probably my biggest weakness most of the time. And even in high school, I had a plan to go to college, leave my junior year. I hit 169 my junior year, and I literally still had that plan. It never changed. And I just said, I have to do it. Like, this is my thing. I'm going to do it. And I can't tell you how often I was told I was never going to do it. And I did it. And it was really special process and journey, I guess, because it was so long. And
yeah,
it was such a, like, I don't know, cool step by step.
Yeah, no, that's really awesome. Prez, what about you? If I can call you that. I know.
Yeah, go ahead. You're fine. You're like a teammate now. Go for it.
I love it.
I guess the point is when, like, dreams match reality or meet reality at a certain point. Like,
I knew you were going to say that.
No, you didn't.
That was really good. I know. I was like, he's going to drop some, like, wisdom about, like, he had to know it for a fact.
Yes, I did. So, like, obviously, like, we always knew we were good growing up, but we didn't know how good you needed to be, like, because I grew up in Louisiana. We'd always go over to Texas Rangers games in Arlington. So, like, watching those guys, I remember thinking, those guys are larger than life. Like, those aren't even real people on the field. Like, is that something that I can really do, even though I know I'm really good, So I always had those dreams of playing on that field. So keep plugging away, high school, college, had a tough sophomore year in college, went to the Cape League that summer and tore it up. Like, I don't even know. First off, I don't know how I even got invited to go. Then I tore it up. So I'm like, all right, like, this is something, because it's the most prestigious summer league there is. And so it became a reality. So my junior year, I go in and I had a really good year. And that's kind of the point where I was like, all right, like, I'm onto something here, because I knew I was going to get drafted. I didn't know when. But prior to that, I didn't really think about getting drafted. I don't really know how to describe it. Like, I was just thinking about playing and, like, having fun and playing hard. So that's kind of when stuff started to get, in my head, like, all right, I got something that I could actually lose right now. I'm holding on to it, like, so, yeah, that's kind of when it became a reality for me. But, like, in my own head, I always believed that I knew that I wanted to do it. But, like Mike said, he knows me. I needed a little bit of more evidence before I was ready to jump on in. So that's kind of how it worked out.
Hey, nice. Press, I gotta ask you this. I mean, we're really close, and I don't know this, and I wonder, like, I felt the same way about getting drafted. Like, I always had that, like, thought in my head, like I said, but do you think that's because the high school and college game is such a, like, team aspect, and the business hasn't come into it yet? Because, like, once you got to pro ball, like, it blew my mind about, like, everybody's thinking about the next level, who's moving, and, like, that always drove me insane. And when you said that, I was like, you know what, like, that makes so much sense, because I did the same thing, and you would think it'd be the exact opposite. Like, I didn't think about the draft until it actually happened.
No, would be heartbroken if we lost a game. Like
Yeah.
at those levels, like not that
I went
at
to
the
Middle
professional
Tennessee.
level.
We lost a lot of games.
So like the goal was a win. So like if anything else, it just proves like if you play to win, you can play at your best, without even worrying about the other stuff. But yeah, pro ball is a different beast. Like there's a lot more comes into play and a lot more is running through your mind. So the game was much simpler prior to professional baseball for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I had to ask because
Yeah, no problem. I love that question.
Yeah,
You're doing my job right now. Now, Vince, I kind of want to change this question up for you a little bit because
For sure.
you unfortunately came into some injuries when you were looking at colleges, you were getting scholarships, but then you had an injury, so it kind of put a dent in things. What did that do for you as like an athlete?
Yeah, for sure. I think my high school career and days were, if I can put it nicely, is one word that describes it, is just adverse. And looking back on it, it's been my biggest blessing in disguise and what motivates me and inspires me to this day, where it was the most challenging days of my life where I actually dealt with the yips my junior year, put a lot of pressure on myself, didn't have a lot of people in my corner with coaches that I thought I did, and developed the yips. And I fought back, battled back, lost a lot of opportunities, played summer ball, came back my senior year, actually tore my ACL. So no one really wants a catcher with a bum knee. So it's almost 2 years shot in high school and just had to reinvent myself. And there were some really dark days, like who can I lean on? Where's my friends at? Where's my teammates at? Because it's basically you and you, right?
Yeah.
That's all you have. And was lucky to get a couple of scholarships offers, chose Clarion. But again, it's been the biggest blessing in disguise looking back on it. And it's really elevated me to this point in my career and profession. And with these two guys, it's been awesome journey with, and we're just excited. And hey, if it never happened, we might not be here. So it just got to look forward and forward. So it's been great.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything happens for a reason. I'm a big believer of that.
Amen.
Can I add a tidbit to that real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
And everybody can speak to this. Is there anything that feels worse than when you're like, do you ever feel more alone than when you're injured on a team? Like that's one of the worst feelings. It's like you're not even there anymore.
Well, if you want to,
You know what I mean?
I have something that'll crack you guys up. Go ahead. Benny.
It's like nobody even says hello to you anymore. You're just kind of there. It's like,
well,
what are you doing?
The biggest thing that really hurt me was, especially when I tore my ACL during basketball season. I was playing basketball, tore my ACL during basketball. I actually went to every practice, every game, felt part of the team, and it really uplifted your spirit, especially going through like an ACL injury where it's like just a grind. Like it's you in the weight room, just getting back and trying to get back for baseball. But what really like motivates me and lights my fire till this day was my senior year. I didn't even get really a part of the team. I didn't even get my like jersey as a senior, even go sit on the bench and attend practice. And we ended up winning the Whitfield championship. But like, it was like I cried because I felt so alone that I wasn't a part of something I worked for my whole life with my teammates. And I use that to a chip this day. And whether it was coaches or other things out of my control, but like Alex just hit the nail on the coffin. It was crazy to go from a roller coaster of you felt invited by your peers during basketball, then baseball changed. And it's like, who are you again? And that's so true. And just dealing with that roller coaster of emotions, it was a wild ride.
Yeah, I mean, I never had an injury that severe, but like I know it was like my senior year of football. I pulled my hamstring and I felt that same thing. I was like, I don't even feel like I'm part of the team. I can't practice for like 2-3 days. But it's like something like that. Obviously, I can't really relate to.
Yeah, and the yips is like a whole nother thing. It's like you're a leopard, so
Yeah.
like, no one wants to be around you.
Yeah, no,
Benny, that wasn't the yips, man.
I know. Now reflecting back on it, Mike's right. It wasn't.
My first injury was my senior year in high school, and I have a profession in knee surgeries. I've had 5, but like the thing about the first injury is like I did it because I was stubborn, stress fracture, first rib, very, very weird injury. Did it while I was swinging. I couldn't do anything for 4 weeks. So I'm a senior last year, and it was miserable for me because I always was doing something super ADD all over the place sometimes. But the one that got me, it was my sophomore year. It was the next time I got hurt, and I just can't believe this happened. I had mono, and I had like this rare case, and the doctor came in the room and was like, "You're done. You're not going to play this year." And I said, "Yes, I am. Sorry." And we left, literally left the hospital, and I wouldn't go to another hospital. So my mom took me to Children's Hospital, and I stayed there for 7 days. I lost 45 pounds. Um, and they said I had to gain the weight back if I wanted to play, and I'd probably be ready for midseason. So I don't hear from my college coach, and I'm the starting catcher going into my sophomore year. But the assistant coach called me, and he's like, "Hey, just get better," like blah blah blah. I wasn't allowed to go to school for 2 weeks. It was my first quarantine, and so when I got back to school, the first day I was there, I was riding the bike, and my coach came up to me, and he had this raspy voice. He just passed away. Super old school. Made me the catcher I was because he literally expected so much out of the guys that were behind the plate, and I love that he had that attitude. But he goes, "Mckenry, you don't exist until you can put on a uniform and catch." Like, not how you doing, not welcome back, nothing. And I go, "Yes, sir." And I played the opening day, hit 2 homers. It was like a moment that, like, kind of defined me, especially after that year I hit 169, had a huge summer, didn't get to go to the Cape. But it was a moment that, like, really hit home, like, for me, that, like, don't ever let anybody tell you what you can or can't do in any situation, because if you don't go in with like a true ownership of all this stuff, you'll allow people to control your destiny. And with injuries, I had 5 knee surgeries, and the first one that was because I'm an idiot was just recently with an ACL playing basketball, thinking I was still that kid Michael Jordan in the driveway. So, like, at the end of the day, like, it taught me something that gave me a perspective. Stay on the field no matter what. I played through things most guys will never know about, and I could add more surgeries probably because of bad luck. I probably did some stupid things, but like Vinny said earlier, like, it was a huge blessing. And every single instance, the 5 knee surgeries, the mono, the stress fracture, all the stuff, I'm so happy it happened, even though it put a bunch of dampers in my career, because it's literally the reason, like, I'm so enthralled into mental well-being, mental health, and probably was, in a really cool place when Vinny walked in and we had lunch for the first time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sorry, but before we get into that stuff, I do want to talk about Vince's
Yeah.
college career, and it does have to do with psychology, obviously. I just wanted to know, did you go into college wanting to do psychology? Is that something that was like instantly you're like, I want to do sports psychology?
Yeah. So honestly, I went in undecided. I had a high school teacher, probably my favorite teacher of all time, just tell me, like, hey, you have this demeanor and it feels like you're taking an interest in psychology. Maybe that's something you can do down the road. So that was always in the back of my head in my game plan going into college, but I didn't want to commit because I really just wanted to enthrall myself in baseball. Like, I just got over the yips. I just got over ACL. Now it's like time to shine and get back on the field. Almost 18 months, grinding away. And I really didn't even think about school. But ultimately, the yips came back my freshman year, and I had a red shirt. So I'm like, dang, like, what am I going to do now? So I actually started reading a lot. I read a lot of quotes during my ACL surgery, during that rehab. And it really sparked my interest in performance psychology, mental health, well-being. And from all this adversity and challenges led me to the field of psychology, I'd say. And that's just how I got started. So my sophomore year, the coach was like, hey, you have a little bit of scholarship money, and I really can't trust you because of the yips. we have to cut you, but we'll let you transfer. So after, from junior year of high school to sophomore year of college, I'm like, what the heck? Like I've battled, grinded this whole time. Like, so I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like I lost love for the game, like hated the game, didn't even watch baseball anymore. Didn't even look up the stats, the box scores. But I just enthralled myself in psychology because I didn't want through anybody that I went through or what I went through to go through it alone.
Yeah.
And I just really absorbed myself in psychology, and it's led me through that path in the sports psychology, mental health, and just the whole wellness of a human, and just basically just caring for the individual and asking you, how are you doing? 'Cause that's all I ever wanted and needed.
Yeah, absolutely. That kind of answers my next question that I had was how did you use that the classroom knowledge to help you on the field? And I think that kind of answers it.
Yeah, and I'm a firm believer that without the previous experiences and hardship, and especially in like the mental well-being element, like until you actually feel something and actually go through it and overcome it, you'll never really understand it. So it's good to hear the education side and reading the book, but I feel like what's been my separator is to really get in the shoes, because mental health and wellness is not a one size fit all. You know, our emotions affect different people in certain ways, but if you really just care for that person and understand and be vulnerable, build trust and that relatability factor, the experience oversees the book knowledge any day. And it's been a great journey helping people and making an impact.
Yeah, absolutely. And now, was there any time where, you were getting this the classroom knowledge, the book knowledge, and you were like you wanted to apply it so bad to yourself, but you like did you have like an internal conflict at all?
Absolutely, actually, no. I always just challenge my teachers because
No, not you.
I still do
That's
it to
the
this day.
Italian in him. Like,
That's right.
oh yeah.
Maybe a hint of Irish too with the stubbornness, but I always like challenge the teachers, like, hey, the book's saying something, or even in my master's classes, like, hey, this prompt, like, it's saying this, but I don't feel that's right. Let me type up thing, and I would get bad grades, and I would fight it and argue it. I'm like, psychology is beautiful because we're teaching growth in others, but no growth in the field. And with different theories and different psychologists, the only way to grow is to think outside the box. And that's what Mike and Alex preach all the time: just think outside the box. And it's led us to this beautiful journey we're on, and it's really been a game changer and a separator.
Yeah, I can kind of relate to that being a communications major. It's kind of a subculture of psychology. And I would do the same
Yeah.
thing. I would always argue like, well, why can't we do it this way? Or why can't we do it that way? And like you said, you get the bad grades on the tests, on the essays. And it's like you're just trying to build your field.
And the one thing, Mike loves the word conviction, and like I always just had this strong conviction from my experiences, like, hey, I know, not that I might not be right to everyone, but I'm right for me.
Yeah.
And I always just followed that like gut instinct, and I wish I would follow it more a little bit, but like I always just had that like strong will to just, hey, you're doing something right. Just keep following it. Like your
Yeah.
experiences and blessings in disguise didn't bring you to this moment in your life for no reason.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I want to bring it back to baseball, and I want to talk about you two here at the bottom. I want to talk about how you both you were drafted in the 2006 MLB entry draft, and I looked into that draft last night, and
Right?
there's some heavy
Right?
hitters in there.
Yeah. Good job.
I never really realized
You
it, but
picked the wrong year.
hey, you could say that you got lost because there's just too much talent. You're part of
Oh,
the talent.
actually, me and Press like to say that we motivated those guys. Like
Exactly.
they say, you are who you surround yourself with. I mean, our draft class, just saying, like, it's surrounded by me and Press.
Exactly. That's it kind of gets into my question of like,
Not really.
well, first of all, I want to, for whoever's listening, I want to kind of give a backstory of who was in that draft. You have Evan Longoria, Clayton Kershaw, Tim Lincecum, Max Scherzer, Justin Turner, and then you also have guys that became your teammates. You had Jared Hughes, Daniel McCutcheon, Mark Melanson, Brad Lincoln, and David Freese, who all ended up becoming Pirates. And this brings me to my question of, do you ever go back and think like, we were part of a very talented class, like we belong with that class?
Go ahead, Press.
Well, I think
Hey,
our, I think
wait,
the, I think the
hold on. We've always been like our careers are very similar. I can't remember what round we were really close, weren't we?
I was 8.
I think you guys were around. It was by
I was
around.
7. I thought
Yeah.
that was like really close.
Yeah, so we were
Of
right in the
course.
same range, of
Well.
course. Yeah, I think our 06 Pirates class is what eventually led to Neil Huntington being the GM like the next year or two. So like
Yeah.
it wasn't the best class you've ever seen. But
Did you? So he didn't call and thank you?
he was trying to like, systematically get us out as quick as he could. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, I mean, there's tons of great players. I mean, we talk about, I think from our class with Pittsburgh, Brad Lincoln, Jared Hughes, who I played with. I hate to bring the Cape up again, but we were on the same Cape team, so I knew him prior. Yeah, I don't know. They must have wrote the wrong name on the invitation. I don't know how I got it.
However you get there.
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of great players in that class. Like Mike said, like if we could have just been another year, we might have made a little bit more money in the draft. But we went when we were supposed to, so it worked out. You know, like he said, our paths have been aligned for a long time. Somehow, I remember him. I played against him when he was in Asheville. I remember you catching against me in Pawtucket. It was before you got traded.
Great
so,
in Pawtucket, man.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was a pretty special class. There's a lot of 7th and 8th rounders that end up being pretty good players.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is kind of shocking, but by MLB standards. But there's something about those rounds that some guys get lost in the shuffle, I think.
Yeah. Now, do you guys have like a special draft story, like how it happened? Like, was it anything special? Was it funny?
I'll say this about there's one guy I wanted you to mention is Will Harris. He went in the 9th or 10th round. He was with me, and his journey was so cool because you know he really didn't pitch that much at LSU until like his senior year really took off there. He got drafted, man. Like he came in, he was lights out, and like fast track to that point because the game's really changed. But like watching him do now, like doing what he's doing now, he went through injuries. He did this. They kind of wrote him off, and he didn't give up. And signing that deal with winning the World Series with the Astros, then going to the Nationals on a 3-year deal is like so cool to see when you see like that guy that grinded all the way through and a good dude that just had it, So I had to throw some love there. He's a good buddy of mine, and
yeah, absolutely,
just a really like good human. But I would say the biggest thing about the draft is like for me, when I got to where I was going, first off, they told me, "Hey, you're going to Tri-Cities." I'm like, "Yes, that's an hour and a half from Knoxville, Tennessee." And they were like, "You're going to Washington State." I was like, "Oh, okay." I've never been there. So, and I got there and like, I thought it was going to be like so different. I was in the desert. I was literally like in the part of Washington State that's not green, like the only part. And I learned so much so fast because like, how many guys were, from the Dominican Republic, Australia. We had a guy from England and Italy. It was just like, man, holy culture like hit all at once. And I'm also doing the thing that I've always dreamed to do. And I'm playing in the biggest park that God ever created. And I realized how hard you have to hit a ball with a wooden bat real fast. Because like it was just one of those things. And going back to like the draft class, it was that opportunity to see that next level, because I went, short season, so right above rookie ball, and you got to see things like I'd never seen in college. A guy coming in, he threw 100 and it hit the backstop, it hit the Durham Bull. Like it was just like, where did this kid come from? And then the next 3 pitches are right down the middle. And I'm catching, I'm like, well, I don't know what to say to him. This is kind of new to me. So like, I ended up like loving those. Like I got so close with all those guys. I ended up living with a guy named Ishmael Rogers that we went through the minor leagues together for 3 years towards the end of my first Rocky stint. So it just was the culture that like blew my mind immediately. Because when you get drafted, maybe it's different for press. They just say, all right, here's when you're going. See you then. Do I need to bring gear? So like I brought like this all my stuff. I had no idea, like, and I'm a Tennessee kid that's never even been that far north and west. So I was just like, all right, let's go. It was crazy. It was fun, but it was like a crazy experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I went to Williamsport was my first stop, and the one thing about Williamsport that I never liked, because okay, first off, nobody on our team hit in that short season. We had like the worst hitting team. Like there was like an emergency. Our hitting rover came in in an emergency visit. That's how bad we were hitting. So like
Panic.
But yeah, so like in Williamsport, the dugout is so far from home plate, and just the amount of strikeouts and everything else is just like the longest walk back ever. It was horrible.
It's terrible.
I remember some old guy was heckling me, and like if anybody knows me, then this is kind of funny. But like, so like, I punched out, and he said something to me, and I literally was like, this is where we were at this point. I literally held the bat out to him. I was like, here, you want to go hit? Back in the dugout. That's not like how I do it. That's how far I had been just like pushed to the brink. Like
yeah.
Like you said, being out of your comfort zone in college, like everything's just, you go to a field that's way worse than your college field. You're just like, I thought this was the pros. And then yeah, it was a tough summer for me. Like I had to really adjust.
But wasn't it a blessing though? Like I remember looking back at it and I'm like, like I went to Middle Tennessee. I didn't go to Ole Miss. We didn't have that type of facility, but like, it really was like that. It was like, wow, like worse field, worse conditions. Like our batting cage, if we didn't have like a lifelong tough nailed hitting coach, there's nobody on the planet that would have stood behind this net. It had holes. Like they wouldn't even put strings on it. So we had to like ghetto rig it and all this stuff. And like we didn't hit either, so we spent a lot of time in that cage. And that poor guy just kept coming out and tossing. So it was like, man, this is way different than I thought it was going to be. We even played like a couple fields that like we got blacked out because like lights, the bus, didn't work. You got all the feels right out of the gate. So like I felt like once again, the adversity can help you.
And it feels like you are about as far away from the big leagues as possible at that point is what it feels, at least what it feels like.
Yeah, on a different planet.
Take me back to college.
That's crazy. Now, I want to fast forward a little bit, and this is a question for Alex. So you get drafted in 2006, and in 2010, you get the minor league player of the year. You've only been in the league or in the minors for 4 years, and you were drafted in the 8th round. Is that something, like, what does that achievement mean to you? Being an 8th rounder like that.
Well, the 4 years felt like 10, first off. But it's good. The thing about it for me was like leading up to that point, like I had struggled. So like that year was a big breakthrough year for me. Like nobody saw it coming in the organization. I probably wasn't even on the radar at that point because I had a couple of tough seasons prior to that in A ball. So like I had a good year in low A and high A. I played 2 years there, and anybody knows that, like if you repeat a level, like that's not the best thing in the world that can ever happen. So like, I came in, I just like had a complete mindset change going into that spring training, and I was like, all right, I'm just gonna play hard. Like I'm not gonna worry about anything. I'm gonna try to be myself. Like I'm not gonna try to do things out of my capabilities, and that's kind of when everything gelled for me. So like that year was a really special year because I went from AA to AAA, then to a call up in 2010. So that's kind of the turning point in my career that year, especially while we're talking about mentality, like that was a huge thing for me, mentality wise.
Yeah, absolutely. Now I want to get into. I was talking with Vince a little bit about this, and he said he has a good story about it. It's just this is the only thing that I could pick out of your guys' Pirates careers where you guys kind of intertwine, and it's also a very emotional roller coaster of a 2 months that had happened. So this is 2011. Mike, you had just gotten traded to the Pirates from Boston, and you instantly make an impact. You got your first career hit in your first game with the Pirates. It was really awesome. Everybody was like, "Oh, we got some promise in this new catcher." And then, so that's June 13th. June 27th, Alex gets promoted to the Pirates. And that, as a fan, like knowing who you were and like following you going through the minors, as a fan, it was like, wow, finally we got that extra push. It looks like the team is really looking to win a pennant now. Just bringing up the young guy, giving us some just more help, to the lineup. And then you come to July 7th, Mike. It's something that probably lives in your heart near and dear. You have your first career home run. It's a 3-run shot. One of Greg Brown's greatest calls ever. I love listening to it. And that helps the Pirates break 500 for the first time since 1992. And that, as a fan, was just amazing. It's like you really start to believe, And now, and I want to ask before I continue, I want to ask Vince, how did you feel about like those events that had happened? Mike getting his home run, getting us over 500 as a fan. What was that like?
Oh, it was awesome. I mean, it was the first time in my lifetime they were actually winning. So
Yeah.
I mean, since 92, I was born in 94, but like just see the city, such a sports town where everybody just is glued to the TV, no matter if it's Steelers, Penguins, or Pirates. Even if they are losing, we live and die by sports. It was just an exciting moment just to actually, we didn't have to watch out of market games to see a winner, or like, it was like
Yeah.
tuned into like every pitch, every strike, like mattered, just because, winning just is just everything. I mean, and just to see your hometown team start to like, win some games and have some momentum going forward. It was just awesome being a kid who loved baseball and just loved the Pirates. It was great.
Yeah, I felt the same way. It was, you couldn't look away from the television when the Pirates were playing, and
And
that's
you
something
couldn't,
you couldn't say for 20
yeah,
years.
and you couldn't like put in the words, because like it was like this feeling for the first time. So it's like, what's going on? It's kind of almost like culture shock, where
Yeah.
it's like, wow, it's 7:05. I got to turn the game on.
Exactly. So we go from July 7th, and then 19 days later,
That's the one.
that's the one. July 26th. You guys play a long game, longest game in that. Is it still? They got a new stadium, right, in Atlanta.
Yeah.
So it's the old stadium. It's the longest game in that stadium's history. 19 innings, and the unfortunate call by Jerry Mills. He's still hated in Pittsburgh today. It's the thing that I always take away from that is that it's very reminiscent of what happened in the 1992 NLCS. And I just need to obviously talk to you, Mike, about what was going on in that moment when you turned around and he said safe.
Well, first off, talking about Spanky, when I got to meet Spanky, he walked up to me and he goes, welcome to the club, gave me a hug, because I didn't go to spring training, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't know that whole like realm, because like I was always enthralled in playing. I became like a fan, kind of later on, but like I grew up in Knoxville. There was no Pirates. It was Cubs and the Braves is all I watched. So that was like cool moment for me, because like when I came to Pittsburgh, how they really loved the sport, like they loved their sports and they loved that grit, that hard nose, and they embraced me so much. Like I'm forever grateful. I had to say that, but I wasn't grateful for this day. It really was. If you look at it really was probably more of a culture shock and a complete like explosion of morale, all in one moment. And you're talking about like when Press got called up, and it was, you could see as soon as you got there, like the welcoming that you felt, and there was a team aspect that can disappear. When I got called up with the Rockies, like we were in a playoff push, won 10 games in a row, and like I was just there. Like I was the young guy that was just there to learn. But when I came to Pittsburgh, it was just like something was a little different. And I think you got to see it play out over the years. But that moment, the one thing that really sticks out to me even more than the call was first, Jerry Mills was really good all game. And I think he blacked out, or, maybe he needed an exorcism at that moment. But he could have done the, what is it? That movie where he's like, strike, and the crowd goes nuts and he's like, yeah, all right, we'll just stick with it. But it was heartbreaking for me for Daniel McCutcheon. And what he did that day was the epitome of what a great teammate is. So we're out of pitching. I think we're in the 13th inning. Let's see, 13, 14. We're in the 13th inning. And all of a sudden, Kutch comes down, jacket on, cleats on. Well, he's pitched 3 days in a row. And we had a policy, nobody could pitch 3 days in a row. Well, if you know Daniel McCutcheon, very similar to me, very high strung. He wants to compete and he wants to help his team. So he literally grabbed his gloves, spiked. They told him not to go. He started warming up. Didn't miss a beat. Came in 5 innings. That guy threw. Just heart and soul left on the field. And that's how it ended. And, it took him a while to get his mojo back, and he had to grind through the minor leagues. And I think a lot had to do with that moment. So I always give him a lot of props, and I always tell people, because they asked, what'd you say to Jerry Mills? And I said, and I have no idea. I was like the mom in the moment. I think I was in shock a little bit. And I said, you're going to be so disappointed when you see that on film later. And then all the guys Hurdle came, Snyder came, they're just yelling like crazy at him. And I was walking off you're going to be disappointed. What but my who was hot, and these guys don't think this is funny, is my wife, Jacqueline. Steaming. And I've never seen that unless somebody did something bad to someone she loved. She's the sweetest person in the world. But I came out of the dugout and she was, I was like, whoa, never seen that before. It was funny to see. She was fired up.
Wow. Yeah, and you say that moment, the strike, the movie moment there. It makes me think of.
That's what it is.
Yeah. It makes me think of there's that running joke about the Immaculate Reception. And it's the referee goes into the tunnel and he's like, did he catch it? He's like, well, if he didn't, you better find a crew of police officers to escort you out of the city. So it makes me think maybe if that was in Pittsburgh, he would have asked somebody first before he made that call, and he would have been like, yeah, he's out.
Hey, we do have replay. It was part of the decision. So, and I'll say this, I never had him again behind the plate.
Really?
6 years. Never. Every time, even the days, and I don't know what happened. I didn't, when he was behind the plate and I'm like, oh, I'm going to probably play today, I wouldn't play that day. I don't know if there's some weird rule, or maybe they thought I was going to bite his head off. I have no idea.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Just let one go past.
Oh, sorry, I got crossed up again. No, I would never do that, guy. You know that.
No, and then what's disappointing is it feels like that was the turning point in that season. And it, as someone who stayed up for however long that game was, I watched the entire thing, every pitch. It literally was your soul left your body when that happened. And I just want to know, for you guys as players, what did that do to the team afterwards? What happened? Do you think that really did have a huge effect on the season, or was it just damn, that was a game that we should have had, but we got to go to the next one?
Press, before you answer that, I want to see if you remember. I did a podcast, asked me a very similar question, and for some reason this popped in my head because I really thought about it before I went on, because I get asked this question a lot. You know what crushed my soul? And I saw our team just get demoralized. So we had such a good culture. We thought we could come back from that in a heartbeat. I really believe that. and we came back ready to go the next day. But we went to Philadelphia after that. You know where I'm going with this, Press, right? Do you remember this series? So we went in,
I need to
Roy
hear it.
Hall, Cliff Lee, Cole Hamill, Worley, when Worley was like
Lights out.
my young candidate. So
Yeah.
that's obviously my first time facing. I did really well against Worley because like it wasn't the first 3 guys that I had to face, but I think I struck out 412 times in 3 games. It was like I was like, I don't know what to do. Like I may have a hole in my bat. Like I can't seem to hit anything. And like they just seemed like they were on a different level. And it was the first time I had that like awe factor of like the major leagues. Like these guys are like different. And they were all like having great years, kind of in the thick of like their into their prime, maybe, or even the middle of their prime, but like they absolutely annihilated us. It was crazy. At least me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I like for sure, like the series after that, like was something that
You probably
you know,
raked. You raked that whole year.
I probably got a couple infield hits maybe.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. I don't know if it's just like one turning point or not, but like, that series, it's like, kick you while you're down type deal. Like just really, shove it up your, whatever. It's a family show. I don't want to say anything.
It's not.
But yeah, it's a long season. It's a grind. Like it's hard to pinpoint like one turning point in a year. Like there's so many ups and downs throughout the season.
Yeah. It's a lot easier for me as a fan to say that than for you guys as players who live it every day.
Let's put it this way: like the streak or whatever you want to call it, it was definitely something that was like we could feel the weight of that to some extent for the fans because we knew how passionate the fans were about it. So like, it was something that we wanted to, bring and put an end to move forward. But I mean, even if it was just going 500 in the season, so yeah, it's just one of those things where, you want so badly to do it, for your team and for other people as well. So it starts to weigh on you after a while.
Yeah, absolutely. And Vince, you said you had a funny story about that 2-month span. I want you to elaborate on that.
Yeah, so before me, Mike, and Alex all got connected, that year I actually did my senior project for high school, and I actually got to go to the game with John Parado, who, baseball reporter, wrote for the Beaver County Times and Baseball America. So we're in, it's my first time in the dugout, in the locker room, and all of a sudden he's like, "Hey, I got to do this interview with Alex Presley." He's like, hitting real well, and I'm like, "Yeah, I know who he is." So, but backstory, I was actually looking for Mike because I actually got Mike's T-shirt jersey because of a catcher.
Yeah.
Had a support for the short guys and just the catcher grind.
I had to throw in the short joke, man.
Well, you got me, but that was my whole saying. But we actually interviewed Alex during that time, and John was like, "Hey, is there anybody else you want to meet?" I was like, "Yeah, I'd like to meet Mike and see who else we can interview." But we interviewed Alex, got to meet him, and then I guess Mike was hiding in the weight room or training room, and we didn't get to see him.
Man, I'm sorry. What about?
So this was in September. I think the Buccos were out of contention, but they were just fighting and beating up people. They played the Cardinals. They won the game. I think it was a walk-off hit, and I actually got kicked out of the Cardinals locker room postseason or after the game, post-game, because Tony La Rosa said, "Who's this kid in here? We're in a playoff push. We don't know kids in here." So the PR guy kicked me out of the locker room. So while all this was happening, I got to meet Alex, was in the locker room during all this, and you could just feel like the whole energy, and you just felt like this, wow, it's awesome to be in here. And it was just like this different feeling, but I got to meet Alex and all that before any of this. So it's kind of a small world on how it all revolves around back to where we're at today.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for me personally, I think I've gotten Alex's autograph at PNC Park before. I had a hat actually. This is kind of a funny story, kind of really depressing.
Oh God.
I had this hat, right? And I got autographs from several players around that time on it. And it was like, I got it, and I was like, all right, this is really cool. And then little by little, it's like, all right, he was traded. He was traded. And I was like, this hat's not going to be worth anything.
But we're
Like I
used to
said, it's
that.
depressing, but
That's what he said after I signed it. He's like, "Ah, this hat's shot."
Yeah, I got that.
no,
We
it
don't-
wasn't,
we don't-
it
we
wasn't
don't
from
use
you,
that.
Alex.
We
Don't worry.
values it.
And then
Hey.
Mike, I think I probably saw you probably once at like a what were they, the Pirate Fests, or maybe no. I was gonna say I thought I met you at the AT&T Sportsnet studios when it was Root Sports, I think. But I think that I met somebody else. It was probably Stan Savin or something. Who knows?
I look just like Stan.
Yeah, hey, I know I met somebody, but that was a while ago.
Yeah, I'm sure
But
that crew over there they're such good people. So I'm sure you met a lot of them because they always go out of their way when someone comes in.
Yeah, it was a really cool experience. I got to take a picture behind the desk. I was like, I'm meant to be here, you know.
I tell you what, when COVID settles down, and everything, if you want to come by the studio and see the new studio, it's sick.
No, that'd be
And,
awesome.
it'd be-
And that leads me into my next question. It's post baseball. I figured that 2 months was kind of a really cool aspect of your guys' Pirates career. May not have been the most positive, but it was probably the most relatable, I think. But now I want to ask you, how did you get involved with doing the pregame and postgame for the Pirates?
I got hurt. So look at quick backstory. I sometimes get long-winded, but as a kid, I had 2 learning disabilities. I hated talking in front of people. That's why big reason why I probably was always moving, because it just gave me an outlet. And I got like challenged a little bit in high school to like think differently and start to not crutch on that. And so, I had a teacher that kind of like poured into me, and I started believing just a little bit. And then when I met my wife, she made me really start to believe in my ability to, beat that. And I ended up beating it in college. I took a speech class that she recommended, and the lady came up to me and she goes, "I want you to do something. I don't usually do this, but do your outline and all the work that everyone else has to do, and then I want you to hand it to me and go give your speech." And I said, "So no note cards, no anything?" Like, okay. And I nailed it, I guess. In that moment, she goes, she looked me up. She like got my transcript, saw what was going on, and she realized that I couldn't handle it all. And she gave me a new outlet, and she taught me like where my strengths were, and it made me unfearful. And my personality, when those type of things happen, I want to get better. So anytime I had an opportunity, I started leading a Bible study. I started doing everything I possibly could to challenge myself. And over time, I got better. And my wife, when I got hurt in 2013 with the Pirates, Robbie and Spikowski came up to me. He's like, "Hey, man, I have kind of a random question." And like, I'm hurt. They asked me to stay, work with the pitchers, do the scouting reports and whatnot, because I started to fall in love with that. And he goes, "You want to do the pre and post game tomorrow?" And I was like, uh, maybe. Like, I texted my wife and I'm like, "What do you think?" She's like, "Do it. Like, do it." So she says, "Go." I run. So I did it. And then they asked me to do 9 more games after that, since they were on the West Coast, and Teak took off because those games were at like 3:00. So in the morning. So it was that opportunity that kind of opened the door for them to call me at 2017. And I remember Roger, my boss, said, "Hey, I'm not saying like you should retire, but would you be willing to come interview once your season's over?" I'm literally like in the dugout talking to him, like, wow, now I'm actually thinking like, why did he do that? Like, is he watching me? Like, am I playing that bad? Like, what the- I mean, we're literally like in first place in AAA. Like, it's going like okay. And so the season ended, did the interview. They told me I got the job. I was super humbled, and it was probably one of the coolest like moments and accomplishments of like something I dealt with for a long time. And they literally gave me almost 3 months to decide. So I trained up until the day I heard John Gruden make a speech about being an analyst and how it impacted him to get back into the game, because the knowledge and the love he got from the game, being able to talk to everyone, made him feel like he had the opportunity to like embrace the wide receivers differently, the O line, the D line, because he could focus on just that. And I was like, okay, I think I may want to do this, but I'm going to call the one guy I think will talk me out of it. So I called one of my coaches, and the guy is a baseball guru. They literally call him the catching guru. I said, Jerry, I got offered the job to be an analyst for AT&T. He said, take it. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, one question. If you are watching a game and you're better than the guy you're analyzing, are you going to be upset? I said, no. He goes, then take it. This is a rare opportunity for you to start to become a coach, because that's your real calling at some point. And I was like, all right, well, I literally got phone and said, well, I guess I'm retiring. That goes, I know, I've already started your like goodbye, because she's really,
Paperwork or whatever.
yeah, no, she wrote like the like, thank you to Pittsburgh
Oh yeah.
to like help me. She was like, read it, tell me if you need anything added. But like, and she was on it, and she was like crying, and it was the right decision. It was like the moment I called, and no problem. And then the Dodgers called me back because it was the one team I wanted to play for, because I wanted to catch Clayton Kershaw, because we had like a weird banter, and they called me back and like gave me like the kitchen sink for a minor league deal. And I was like, I just said, what do I do? What do I do?
Like, you
And
should have called me 20 minutes ago.
yeah, I was like, yeah, you should have called me 20 minutes ago. And I was like, Michael, you're a man of your word. You be a man here and you say, thank you. I appreciate it. I hope to analyze your game and bounce. So, and I got a really cool relationship with their assistant GM now. We still like talk about it. He's like, you're the only guy that's ever like turned down like the second offer. It was so funny. He's like, thanks a lot. This is his first year.
Oh, man, that sucks for him. Awesome for you though.
Hey, trust me, we've become good friends, and we've talked about a lot of different players, and I've learned a lot from him. And obviously their system's really special, so it's cool just to see that family in baseball. Like it's really like a very special thing. Like, me and Press knew each other and had respect for each other because we played against each other in Hawaii. We played against each other in the fall league. And like, you just knew certain guys, like, man, I like that guy. I like to play with that guy. And I always had that like respect for certain guys. And then a lot of them I played with because I played for like 54 teams. So it was really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And now, Alex, I want to talk to you about your background in psychology. Was it something that you always kind of wanted to do, or was it something as a player you were like, I kind of want to get to know the psychology of being a professional athlete?
It wasn't something I ever really thought about, honestly. Like, so it's really weird. So like when you're young, or when I was young playing pro ball, I didn't pour into teammates. I didn't ask teammates questions about how they were. And it's crazy. Like we all go through ups and downs as players, and some worse than others. I had some times where like, I had to figure out what was going on with me, what was going on in my head, try to, make things work from day to day. So like I became aware of myself at a certain point that like, hey, like I got to figure this out, or I'm going to be in trouble. So through different, tactics. I kind of figured out what worked for me, some short-term, some long-term things. But then as I matured in my career, I started noticing other people. And I'm like, he's battling right now. My teammate's battling. I can see it. I see the way he's sitting there. I see what he's doing on the field. I know why, to some extent, why he's out there pressing or whatever he's doing. So like, and Mike can attribute this because he knew me earlier. Like, I'm not the most outgoing guy in the world. So like, and I may not be the most approachable type guy. At least back then I wasn't. And I started like asking questions to teammates. I'm like, hey man, how's it going? What's going on with you? Like, I see that you're struggling here. And I really started to like it. I'm like, I feel like I'm helping people out. Like, starting pitcher, it didn't matter who it was. He'd be off, of course, like there'd be days where I'm coming off the bench or whatever, and I'd go sit next to him during the game and we'd talk, and, I'd tell him, bro, like you're fine. You're going to be fine. This, that, just depending on like what I thought was going on with him or what I kind of like gleaned from him through talking to him, plane rides, talk about it. So I started to really like pouring into my teammates or, helping my teammates out, because I knew what it was like to struggle. And it can be a really lonely place when you've snowballed in sports and then you're on the biggest stage and you have to perform and everybody's watching you. And so I kind of got my love for it through, talking to teammates and helping teammates out that, or at least I thought I hoped I helped them out in some way, maybe some small way, and hopefully some of them remember. But that's kind of where I started to get a love for helping others and serving others in that manner. So it's kind of carried over to MetaNu and what we've been doing with Vinny.
Yeah, so that's perfect segue. Vince, how did you get this Avengers group of guys together to help you?
Don't get it wrong, Vinny. Don't get it wrong. This is one of my
Mike's the Hulk.
Yeah.
Right now, I feel like the Pillsbury Doughboy.
Shout out to Twitter. I had my business account and I liked one of Mike's tweets one day, and he followed me back. So I was like, "Oh, this is kind of cool." Building the business, got a check mark guy I looked up to. So I just shot my shot and slid in his DMs, and
I'm in the DMs.
I actually found it recently and kind of printed it out for us as a joke and everything. But
it's not like, a joke. You framed it for me.
I framed it.
And you put the little. I mean, it's really cool. I mean, really thoughtful.
So he's like, send it to my email. I sent him like my business plan, which we look back onto, and that's actually a joke, like from our thing and how we're growing from it. But he's like, meet me for lunch. Can you meet me before game? It's like, yeah, I probably got like 30 minutes for sit down for lunch. It's like, yeah, sure. So I drove up to Pittsburgh, met him in North Shore. Ended up being like 3.5 hours of just talking about life, sports, ball, and everything. And it was just like, hasn't stopped from there. And Mike's like, yeah, I got this buddy of mine I want you to send your program to.
Hold on, you forgot one thing. It was one of my favorites. You forgot the best part, because this is so unlike me. First off, like, I try to trust my instinct with like people, and I just had something really crazy happen to me in my life. So like, I was trying to be like, because I'm a guy, I love serving. I love like helping people, and it's gotten me in trouble. Like it is what it is, because I go all in, and I understood that. So I walked in, and Vinny had no idea, but like I was ready to leave if this first thing I asked him didn't go the right way. And when I say Vinny nailed it, and if you know Vinny, like it kind of like shocks me now, and it really shows me that it was such a like God thing that we connected, because like Vinny would now, or at that time and the rest of that conversation, would kind of go around his thought to bring you back to that thought, and you had to kind of like read through. It's just a psychology thing. Psychiatrists, like it's like they're trying to get in your OODA loop, and Vinny's learned the long way that like I like to get in the OODA loops too. So, but go ahead, Vinny. Tell him how that started. So unlike me. And I don't think
So
Press knows this.
I think I know what you're saying, but I think we met one more time. It was another like 3 hour conversation. She's like,
No, do
"Hey,
you
I'm
not
actually."
remember what I said to you at Burgatory? The very first thing when I sat down after we were like, hey, I'm blah, 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 blah.
No, I think I was pretty nervous and I was pretty like
You
over
probably didn't know
prepared.
what you said. That's how.
Yeah.
Oh man. So I sat down, we said hello and thanks. He said thanks for meeting with him, blah, blah. I said, all right, man, what do you want? I literally said, like, what do you
And-
want? He just looked at me and I was like, dude, like, I need to know, like, and I was straight to the point. It's like, I've been burned recently. Like, what do you want? Like,
Yeah, I remember now because I had this like whole like spiel and it was like, dang, it's not even 2 minutes in the conversation.
yeah.
I don't even remember what I said, to be honest.
You go, well, I had the yips and I really like used your example to help me get through it. And you want to, I really would love for you to, maybe mentor me. And I was like, all right, what do you want to eat?
I love it.
It was like when I say that's so unlike me, like I usually say yes before I even know what I'm doing, just because I feel like I'm gonna help someone. And for some reason, I did the one thing Vinny does not like do well. Like he prepares as good as anybody when it goes to a business meeting, all this stuff. And like I just threw him an absolute Clayton Kershaw nasty 0-2 breaking ball in the dirt on top of the plate, and somehow he fouled it off perfectly.
Thank God for that. But and the funny thing is,
remember that makes my day.
the funny
Knocked out.
but the funny thing is he's like, yeah, it's September. I'm gonna be living back in Tennessee. He's like, why don't you just come down to my house for a few days? And like, I'm like, dang, we haven't even like met for a month here. I'm like, yeah, sure. I've never met Jack, his wife. I've never met don't even
I didn't
know
ask
where.
her first. How do you think I had to feel about it? Like,
So-
hey, I'm bringing this guy I met for lunch in 3 hours, and he may be a serial killer, but we'll figure it out.
So I'm like, yeah, I'm going to Murfreesboro, Tennessee. I didn't know where it was at the time. I was like, yeah, I'm just gotta go where gotta go. It just felt right, and it's been. He's like, yeah, I got this buddy I want you to send the program to. He's like, yeah, do you know who Alex Presley is? I was like, yeah. He's like,
of course.
I think me and Alex communicated over a few emails, and then, I mean, the rest is history. I mean, it's been a wild ride.
Awesome. So, like, what drove you to start your own business in performance psychology?
Yeah, so I was living in Florida at the time, and I went to IMG Academy, kind of pick brains of like sports psychologists, and they have like this mental mind gym and stuff, and just see the lay of the land. How do you get into the field and whatnot? And I asked them a question: if an athlete's struggling with something personal, maybe it's like a mental health issue or just anxiety, stress, or something, what do you do? And they're like, well, we really don't focus on that. We outsource it. And I just asked the question, the guy, I was like, what if someone just needed a conversation or, just a breathing technique or something, just need a little love, ask how they're doing. Yeah, we kind of stay away from that. So I was sitting on the beach with my best friend. I'm like, hey, I got this idea. I think I'm moving back home. I moved back home, wrote this, but the two things that really, well, I'd say three that really define me and why I started this business is one, become who you needed when you were younger, as my story goes from high school, and two, the 4 P's. Pain turns into purpose, purpose turns into passion, passion turns into profession, and that's what's led me down this path of psychology. And three is adversity to let it build you. And as me, Mike, and Alex's stories, you have to go through adversity to grow in life, and that's really what started this whole business and this journey. Sometimes I have to pinch myself because I don't know how we got here and how it was created, but like you just follow like your gut instinct and like this knock, and you just got to go with it. And it's crazy how things have aligned.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I like growing up, I never even thought of like the psychology of playing sports, and to have someone in my own backyard to now have a company that is helping kids and anybody really through all of this is really cool, and it's definitely something I think I could have taken advantage of as a young athlete. So it's really awesome that you're doing this with MetaNu.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a dream, and I've always said I wanted to be a professional athlete, but just be in sports and just not just in sports, but really just help a human make a positive
Yeah.
impact, not let anybody go through what I went through alone. That's really special to me, and that's what we're doing. And it's just a great, it's just a great feeling just to give back and give a positive impact on someone.
Yeah, absolutely. And now I want to talk about something that's been it's taken over all of our lives. It's the pandemic, COVID-19. What are
Before you
some
go there, I have to throw some love at these two because
Oh, absolutely, Mike.
obviously, like I'm the I guess I'm the problem child probably. Um, and you know, I was a kid that grew up in, I went to psychiatrist, I went to anger management. Like I mean, I didn't realize all that impact. So like I had a different outlook on all that realm. And I took a class in college, and I always, anything that I thought could make me better, I ran at it. But like when I met Vinny, I was just out of playing. I was always good friends with the sports site guys. I would YouTube it, podcast it. Like I loved it. Like, but I always felt like they never like kind of what he was doing is what my belief was. And I got to watch Presley come together with like, his faith and his really care for, his teammates in a completely different way. Like we trained together, we worked together, like, we go to the trenches together anytime. And we're really, really close, best buds. And like watching him do that, like if you talk to anybody he played with, they would be like, Presley's in a well-being, wellness business. Like, and like when I called him, we're also in another business together called Tail Tracks. It's a dog business, but that's just an investment.
Mhm.
And I just saw the opportunity as like, if this hits, like this could be really good for, our families. And, we both thought about giving money back if that happens, blah, blah, blah. And this opportunity started coming. Me and Vinny, I think we were about 6 months to a year in. I was mentoring, and that's been my like mindset the whole time. And Jack's even gotten involved with the mentoring, and she did all the designs and came up with that name MetaNu. And like we've just been a big family. But like what's been cool is seeing the growth of my two like teammates and even my wife, because we're like literally telling everybody like we just want to care. Like we're not we're not necessarily a mental skills company. We're not necessarily like we're a care company. Like we want to care for you right where you're at, and like try to figure out like how we can teach you so you can teach someone else. And it's never been about the money. Like it's always like me and Press, he'll tell you right now, like no money's been passed hands, because like the thought is like, let's just do this, see like how good we can be at serving people and not think we know it all, and just, grow and grow and grow. And we took a different approach. Instead of like, the normal, you learn business, you do this. And we decided like, and I kind of challenged Vinny at a point. I said, Vinny, like, let's be completely different, and let's give, and let's see if that gets us going. And the fruits of it starting to really, take shape. And we separated, Vinny's name from MetaNu, and that was like doing surgery on Siamese twins that he connected due to a magnet. And that showed me the care Vinny had. And Vinny went through some, realization, because, one of my business mentors, my best friend, I brought him when he came to Tennessee, he got his dreams crushed. And I was like, this is the moment. This is the moment. And I really focused on, caring for him like he wants to do in his original thought. And I saw the bounce back, and I saw the want to. And you always know when a kid, because I love that mentorship, and that's something I did throughout my career. And it was cool to watch the evolution to where we are now. and we're hitting stride. And I'm seeing these two guys do things that like just 6 months ago they wouldn't have been doing. And they're getting uncomfortable to get even more comfortable. They're owning their space. And we're loving on each other. And like just the other day, we were talking about accountability and challenging each other, and making sure we really drive home our strengths and also like try to enhance the weaknesses. And we constantly are talking about how can we help this person, and we don't know them. We just see something. Vinny starts a text and it's like half a novel, and me and Presley go like three words, and then the conversation just doesn't stop for about 2 hours. So a lot of people don't hear those things. And I think when it comes to businesses, if you really genuinely care for what you're doing, and especially you care for your teammates, so to speak, but the people and you're serving and you're trying to shine a light into their life, but you don't care who gets the credit. That's the ultimate like team and culture. And that's our thing. Like, I mean, Vinny probably wanted to kill me at some point when I was like, hey man, will you talk to this person for free? Hey, knock this out. And I was just like, I promise this is going to come back. And I was like, man, I hope this starts working soon. I was so like nervous at some point because I was like, I know it's different, but it's right. It feels right. And it really has like started to come around. And, Vinny wanted to challenge that, narrative in this industry, and Press was already that way in his mindset. So we've got a team that really feeds off each other, and it's rare. It really is like to have some guys you can lean on and that make you better even outside of the business, because that's more important for us.
Yeah, and I mean, whenever you go to the MetaNu website, I think that was the biggest thing that kind of jumped out to me, is that it didn't even feel like I was going to a business website. Like it felt like you were going to a website where people wanted to help you genuinely. And it all came from there's a spot, I think it's on the homepage, where it's just like, we want to know about your EQ, not your IQ. It's all about empathy. And I think that's something that gets lost a lot in sports, is the empathy towards the athlete and the empathy towards the coaches and the empathy that the coaches give. So that's something that really intrigued me about MetaNu.
Man, that was perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great. That's spot on. That's awesome. Yeah, and just to share some love for Mike and Alex. I mean, I'm crazy. I'm over here. Mike might be over here, but Alex kind of is that, like, me and Mike are like the yin and the yang, but Alex kind of like levels us out and be like, hey, let's chill down. Let's figure this out. Like, it's just this beautiful, like, harmonious, like, relationship, because I don't know how Alex puts up with us sometimes, because I'll send like 18 texts in a row or like ramble on something, and Mike will go, and then Alex like, okay, well, what was that? Like, and you kind of just bring it back to even keel. And it's just been a great relationship, and not just in business, but friendship. And it's just been, like I said, a blessing in disguise how we've gotten to this point.
Yeah, I mean, oh, sorry, Alex. Go
No,
ahead.
you're good. I'll just say it's really cool because like we're all very different, but we're all trying to go to the same place. Like we all have the same goals and mindset, but we just get there different ways. Like, I'm very short-winded. Mike's
Not
long-winded.
When you're bro.
Vinny's very like, let's be prepared and write everything out on a essay before we talk.
Then don't even use it.
And then throws
Took some time for
throws
you.
it out.
That was a big accomplishment for you. It's cool.
So like, yeah, it all just comes together. Like Vinny said, like we all just work off of each other. Like we kind of check each other in certain different ways. Like, both of them get me out of my shell, whereas like I reel them back. It's kind of crazy how we're all, right where we need to be as far as like the team goes and stuff like that.
Yeah, seems like you're the glue guy, Alex. You're the guy that keeps everybody together.
He's Brady.
I do my best. Yeah.
Brady. Like
Brady.
He's just staying in the pocket, waiting to get out, and he just nails us. Like he's like, yep, I knew it. I thought Penny was gonna go left, Mike was gonna go right, but reality hit me. I'm like, no, they're gonna go that way. And that's what ends up happening.
That's really awesome that you guys have that relationship. And now I want to bring it back to the business itself. Once the pandemic hit, did you guys start getting special cases that you've never seen before, like that dealt with COVID and like people still trying to play sports?
Um, yeah, I think it was just an overall majority, not just with sports, but just the human nature of people like dealing with adversity or this thing they can't control, right? Like when adversity hits, I mean, it hits you right in the face. And how do you deal and how do you respond? And not just with sports like being shut down, but whether it was business professionals or just like talking to my grandma, like, hey, like let's not let fear control us, right? We can stand up to it. We can control our thoughts. We just have to control our effort and attitude. But it was this beautiful mix of just every walk of life, and you just see human emotions be shaken or in some cases even strengthened, right? Because they didn't know they had that internal drive to really respond and bounce back. And it's been all over the place, but it's been another blessing in disguise, sort of say, where we're all humans, we all have emotions, and it's just how do we function the best? And really, it's really a fun time just to figure out who people are and how can we make an impact and guide them to the right promised land, sort of say.
I would also say to add to that, um, it was cool to see that we all had the same mindset when the pandemic hit. We wanted to have more knowledge, more understanding, challenge every narrative, no matter who said it, so that we could better be prepared for ourselves, our family, and anybody that maybe needed us. Because Vinny saw real early the lockdowns and the isolation was going to be something that was going to be really, really bad for mental health and well-being. So like we didn't, if anybody needed us, we went. But the cool part is we all talked about let's go, let's build out like what we can. And I'm literally just getting over knee surgery. So I'm hobbling around and I have this terrible allergic reaction, and they're talking me off the like cliff of like depression because like literally it was like tore my ACL, had this unreal like week of some I don't know weird reaction. They don't even know how it happened, and then they gave me a medication that gave me it again. It was wild, and then my dog had a seizure and ended up having cancer on his back, all within this space, and then COVID hit, and I'm usually like ready to go and do all this stuff, and I was not in a good place, and I was like beat up, and Vinny goes, man, I feel like we can get a lot done during this. This could be a blessing in disguise. I'm like, oh man, I'm so glad I started mentoring this guy a long time ago. And
I was like, we
press
don't
call
stop
checked on me.
now.
And he said the same thing. He's like, I think I really could use this time to, sit down with you guys and kind of play a little bit more of the catch up because he wanted to really dive into foundational issues and the middle skills. And that's what we did. And then he started to ask questions about social media and different business things. And my wife was in marketing for a long time, and I ran a social media campaign for Tail Tracks for a while. And we just became students and teachers all at the same time and tried to be what we could for anybody we could during that time because it was so uncertain and so uncontrollable. And like Vinny said, that fear that was consuming so many people, for me and Alex and Vinny, like we have faith, but some people don't have that. So like, where do they put it? So you have to play with their personality and let them understand like, hey, information for you could be the power you need. Some people need that separation. Like, hey, like if you can go outside, like go outside, get some vitamin D. We talk to people about the nutritional side of boosting your immune system. My wife studies epigenetics, and Press's wife has a nutritional certification. She's a pharmacist. So like we had a lot of things, and it made us ask a bunch of questions. And it was really one of those moments where all of our adversity and not pitying ourselves, even though I wanted to, came together all at the same time, and they picked me up in the right moment, and we just went. It was a cool thing because it could have easily gone the other way.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think the biggest thing was we just wanted to be there for people. And I just think the biggest question that's missing nowadays is simply asking people, how are you? And just listen. Just be actively listening to that person. Let them say what they got to say. But our whole thing is just brighten up their day, bring a positive approach. And we don't have to focus on the negative, but how can we overcome it and grow from it? And it's just been great.
Yeah, absolutely. Alex, anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, just when everything went down, I think we kind of
It's usually my drop. Like,
I think we all saw it as this is what we've been preparing for. Like, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be in pain. People are losing jobs. People are losing family members and friends. So, it was our time to go at that point. We kind of, like Mike said, it felt like we kind of hit like a little bit of a stalemate. And, when everything happened, the quarantine and all that stuff, we kind of realized like, we're needed. We got to go. So we all came together kind of like, it was almost like a battle cry for us. Like, people are going to need us. We got to get going. Like, we can't, we have people that we need to be helping. So it was a nice kick in the butt. Blessing in disguise. Been a lot of negatives. We're trying to give some positives in a tough time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's what a lot of people have missed, or maybe not a lot of people, but some people have missed with this pandemic is it was really a good chance to reset and reevaluate what you wanted to really do with your life. I know for myself, that's kind of what I did. That's why I have this podcast now, something I've always wanted to do. And the pandemic comes, you're just sitting at home, not doing anything. It's like, how can you take advantage of the situation you're put in, and how can you flip it to be a positive? And I think that really relates with what you guys are doing with MetaNu a lot.
Absolutely.
thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate
All
it.
right. And now, since we put together a great pitch, I think, for MetaNu, I think it's time to have some fun. I told you guys we're going to do some Pittsburgh sports trivia. I've been shuffling the cards here. And who knows?
I'll be right there. All right, guys, I gotta go.
But hey, who knows? Maybe one of you guys are the answer to one of these questions.
I just hope I get that one right.
Yeah, right? That'd be a little embarrassing. All right, who wants to go first? I'll let you guys choose.
Vinny.
Vinny, he's the native.
All right, yeah, we'll go with
I got a lot of pressure.
the native Western PA man. Vinny, here's your question. Who recovered an onside kick to seal the Steelers' win over the Cowboys in Super Bowl 13?
My gut answer was, is that Frenchie Fuqua?
No, it was not.
Ugh.
Boo.
I
That's a tough
talked about him before the podcast. It's the man that
Rocky
signed that
Blyer.
helmet right there. It's Rocky Blyer.
Dang.
All right, we're
I've
0 for 1.
I've let the city down. I don't know if I can show my face.
Vinny,
man.
you let yourself down. is
I
what
know.
happened right
That's
there.
it.
All right,
It
well,
wasn't
we'll
as
let
bad-
the
it
guys that
wasn't as
lived
bad
some
as-
Pirates history.
It wasn't as bad as
for
what
you.
Press did the other day to you, but it's okay.
Yeah, I need to call my guy who can help me out with that mental problem now. I'm in a funk.
Hey, I know a guy.
guy. Now let's see if the guys that made some Pittsburgh history can answer some questions right. Alex, we're going to go to you.
Okay.
What two players share the record for most games played as a member of the Pirates with 2,433 games?
Dude.
I'm going back in the day with this. You got to. I'm gonna go with Maz as one of them. That's a guess.
Okay.
Is that one of them?
No.
Okay, perfect. Okay, I'll start over then.
Oh no! What the heck?
I'll tell you this. You were right when you said you have to go way back in the day.
It's got to be 70s. It's got to be like Willie Stargell and
I'm going.
somebody else.
I have one.
Go ahead, Vince.
I need help.
Lifeline.
Is one Hannes Wagner?
Yes.
Oh, that's
One
a good
of
one.
Honest Wagner.
Ooh, good.
A little bit more respect for the Western PA.
Pie trainer. Like, I'm just.
Alex, this is blowing my mind because you even said at the beginning whenever we were talking about this, you have to say this guy's name.
Robbie Clemente.
No, he didn't say
There
it.
you go.
I know one he's gonna pick. Who's the other one?
I figured that was too obvious. That's why I skipped over him.
No, I hear you there. Sometimes they're a little too obvious. All right, Mike, we got the last question for you. What coaching position did Bill
God,
Cowher?
I gotta let my walkout song play. Oh, no. All right. That literally was my walkout song when I played, so I had to do it.
No, wait. Actually, I want to give you a choice. There's 2 questions left.
Whoa. True
You
or
could
false?
either go baseball with the Pirates or you go football with the Steelers.
I'm gonna stick with baseball because I feel
Okay.
like I have a chance to redeem myself there. Like I don't want to miss a Steelers question. Like
Gotcha.
I'm good.
All right, let's test your Pirates history. In 1992, what Pirates second baseman earned a Gold Glove, ending Ryan Sandberg's streak of 9?
Oh, I think I know this.
We've used up the lifelines, Vinny. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. I'm trying to get my respect back.
I don't know if that. I'll just do it. Giles, like I think he's a little bit later because I actually was in camp with him, but I'm just gonna go. I thought he was hilarious, so we'll go with it.
I'm sorry, you're wrong. It's Jose Lind.
I would have never gotten that.
Oh, I think I was gonna guess Jay Bell or something, but I don't think he played second.
Yeah. Well, how did I guess Jay Bell?
You said 92, right?
Yep, 92.
Yeah.
He was our hitting coach in 12. How did I guess that one? That would have made more sense.
Hope he doesn't see this show.
I panicked. I need to work on my breathing.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for joining me on Back to the Burgh. This was a lot of fun. And I just thank you guys so much for coming on. This was awesome.
Thanks for the opportunity. It was awesome.
Thanks for having us.
I
Appreciate
really
it.
appreciate it. Hey, Vinny, Alex, I want you to bust a question out at him. I mean, he's the podcast sporty, like he can't miss since we're
Okay.
all.
Oh boy, here we go.
Vinny will have one quick.
My hands are sweating now.
He's got to bring
Jeez.
us back. Bring us back. Get a towel for him. Get him ready. Let's go.
You want Steelers or Pirates?
I feel like I'm gonna get Steelers right, so let's go Steelers.
That a baby. You're going all in. I like it.
Where did Heath Miller go to college?
I know this one.
No way.
I think I know. I think this is a callback. Is it Middle Tennessee State?
Oh, no.
You want me to answer it, Vinny?
Oh no.
Go ahead.
Virginia?
Yeah.
He went to Virginia?
You
Yeah,
know
he
what?
came.
I give
just
him
have-
the point for throwing some love to Middle Tennessee.
I had to.
State.
I had to, Mike.
That was for me. Thank you.
I got you. All right, guys. This is a lot of fun. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah,
Thanks, Cody. Have a good one.
Appreciate it.
You too.
Take care. God bless.